Hey friends, today we're going to recreate a cool transition like the one with the lions in the Jeep. So let's open After Effects and get started. First of all, we create a new composition, name it Text Animation, set the size to 4K and the frame rate to 30 frames per second. We type the text mess. We choose the Proxima Nova font and make it large. Set the font size to 900. Center the anchor point and also align the text to the center. Duplicate text. We write something like reverse text and we write a lot of letters, and so that when we animate this text it doesn't end up on us. It hasn't ended. We will also center the align in the middle and the anchor point in the center. And we shift this text all the way to the left, so that only 4 of them are visible. We select these 2 texts, add a null object, and this will be our null object for animating position and scale. Our null, an object for animating position and scale. Let's insert 2 keyframes on the null at the 8th second. And we animate our null. The object is shifted all the way to the right. And we set the animation graph to about 90. Here's what we currently have so far. The next step will be to create an adjustment layer, rename it to Blur, and add the Directional Blur effect. And we animate our blur from 0 to 8 seconds with values from 0 to 300. And we also set the direction to 90 degrees or minus 90, it doesn't matter. And we also animate our P1 with values from 100 to 300, and roughly we want the peak of our animation graph to align with the peak of our graph. Animations. Blur, but with a slightly shorter duration. And also, maybe you will set some other values, but ideally, we want our text to fit approximately within the size of the composition. And the alignment of the peaks of our animation graphs is necessary so that when our animation occurs, it happened, blur and scale at the same moment, so it will look smooth and dynamic. Next, to add a bit more dynamism, we create a new composition and name it Lines. We create a new solid and add the Turbulence Noise effect to it. And we set these values as I set it. In evolution, we add a simple expression, time multiplied by 3000, or if you want the change in your lines to happen faster, you can use a higher or lower value. And we also add an expression, which I will leave in the description, to the offset turbulence. We add the tint effect to our solid to change its color, and we change the white to approximately purple. Also, to slightly highlight our lines, we add the glow effect and set the following values. like I have. We also slightly change the size of the composition so that our lines can be nicely overlaid on our text and they are positioned right on our text. And also for our solid, we draw a mask so that ours, if the endings of our composition weren't sharp and straight but were a bit smoother, and we blur them using the mask feather and mask expansion effects if needed. Let's go back to our text animation composition and create our background. So we create a solid and choose a color that's roughly purple. And we change the text color to lime green. And we also add our composition with the animated lines to this composition. We turn on the screen blending mode and slightly reduce the size so that they are about the same height, just like our text. And so that our composition doesn't end, we add the CC reptile effect to the line's composition. And we continue it, like to the left, setting the value to 20,000, which will be our maximum value, meaning 20,000 pixels. Let's rewind our animation and bind our lines to our P1 right at the moment when the second text starts, so that our lines start exactly at the moment of the second text. And here's what we have at the moment. We also don't forget to add a fade-in animation for our lines so that they appear smoothly. And the layer with the blur, we drag it up so that our lines are also blurred additionally. Directional blur. Next, for even more dynamics, we need to animate our second text using the fill effect. Therefore, we add the fill effect, set a key with a specific color, light green, and choose a slightly different color for the second key, darker. And we add this color animation to our work. We add the expression loop out ping pong. So there will be a color repetition like from lime green to green, then from green back to lime green, and so on endlessly. We simply create a new composition and incorporate our text animation there. And next, we will work on another part of our transition. And specifically at the peak of our animation, we'll add rotation animation. We also create a small texture made of tiny circles. To do this, we create a new shape. We add an ellipse path, add a fill, and set the size to 2.5. And we add 2 repeaters. One, so that our circles repeat to the right, and one we set up so that they repeat downwards. And we'll end up with a pattern of circles. and we create another composition and drag it in then. This will be our final composition, so we drag in our previous composition, transition L and J. We press Ctrl K and resize it just a bit to slightly hide these gray corners, which we created as a result of adding rotation animation. In the next step, we need to make our next frame become visible by utilizing a shape, so we create a composition and call it Shape Transition. We select the pen tool, making sure only the stroke is enabled, and we draw a random shape just right in the center, exactly in the middle of the area, so that we can easily form a beautiful and perfect star shape after this. Or any random shape, but it should have at least 8 to 10 points. We select our shape path, open it up, set the first keyframe to 0 and the second keyframe at about 2 seconds, and drag again. We drag each of our points out of our workspace so that our shape is completely hidden. And in the end I ended up with something that looks kind of like a star. We also don't forget to enable rounded corners for our stroke. And we also animate the stroke from 100 to 150. And we also add the posterized time effect to this shape and set the value to 6. Also Gaussian blur with a value of 200. And we also simply just actually indeed copy our pattern of circles to make our star textured. We duplicate our star and create alpha matte circles for our star, for our shape. And we will see what will appear in us. Our circles will only appear in the area of our shape. We duplicate our shape once more and change its color to a light green, similar to what we had in the previous composition. And we delete the Gaussian blur. We duplicate our circles once more, but this time we create an alpha invert matte for our shape so that our circles appear according to our shape. Let's now go to our final composition and very carefully add the shape transition to the timeline. And we need to drag it so that our shape transition starts roughly around the 4 to 5 second mark. Let's add some random video, any footage, and drag it right at that exact moment, exactly where our shape transition starts. Now we need to add the animation of our shape to our video, so that our video only shows at that moment where our shape is animated. So we select the pen tool, highlight our video, and create a mask, just so that there is at least one point, and after that we can add our path, the animation of our shape. To do this, you just need to copy the animated shape path and paste it into the mask path. The blending mode is ADD. And we also write the expression posterized time value in our mask path. And the last step is to enable motion blur on all layers and for the entire project. And finally, let's see what we've got. And that's all for today. If you like this format of analyzing some animations from some bloggers or any animation, you can write to me in the comments about what you would like me to analyze. That's all for now. Thank you, and see you later.